Welcome back, everybody, to the Cool Times podcast, where we talk all things cool about the cold storage construction industry. My name is Vince Free, joined by my host, life partner, business partner, Jenna Free. And we are excited today to have on actually good friends of ours and very good friend. And I feel like it's another door guy, but we got another door guy with us today, and he's an expert. He's a pro, man. This guy's been in the industry since 1992. He started working for a door distributor local to the Chicago market. I think he spent 22 years at, him and I worked together in our previous door life. He spent 22 years there and then moved on and now is the manager of industrial solutions at Jamison Door Company. Mm-hmm. Yes, another Jamison Door Company folk on here. I know we just had Yannick on, awesome guest, but ladies and gentlemen, the one and only John Hatters.
Yay. Hi, John.
Thank you. What's up, Johnny?
How are you?
How are you guys?
Good. We're good, man. We're so pumped to have you on, man.
It's great to see you guys.
Well, I learned so much from you growing up in my career from like a sales standpoint. I used to like go home from work and tell Jenna about you and going on sales calls with you and be like, man, this guy can literally sell ketchup to a woman in white gloves. Like, this guy's insane. You go to a sales call with John, you get a PO after you leave the job. It's insane. So,
well, when you got talent, you got talent.
Well, you're very kind.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I guess one of the things that we like to do with our podcast is learn how people found this industry, because we've kind of, and the whole, I guess, purpose of the podcast is there's not a lot of people that know about it. Our little cold storage niche industry that we have here. And so can you tell us a little bit? I know you started indoors, but what was there like what we coined it our cool story about how you got into the cold storage industry? Like, what was it random? Was it something you were seeking out?
I don't know that anybody intentionally gets into it. I think somehow we all kind of fall into the door industry somehow, some way, right?
Right.
Well, for me, I was kind of recruited right out of college, and I had no aspirations of getting into the door industry whatsoever. But a good friend of mine that I grew up with, his brother had a door company. He was a high-speed door distributor in the Chicago area.
Okay.
And he heard that I was back home from college, and so he kind of just out of the blue called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in talking to me about getting into, sales?" And I was like, well, okay, sure. I never thought about getting into sales, which was ironic. But we met, we sat down, we had a couple of conversations. And I said to him, I go, look, here's the deal. I did not take any sales and marketing courses in college. I really, that wasn't my focus. But if I'm going to entertain this, why don't I take a course at the community college? Let me go take Sales 101, just so I can wrap my head around what that world looks like.
Sure.
And again, one of those things in high school when they kind of say, career path and all that stuff. Yeah. Nobody ever said anything about sales.
Sure.
And so I did it. I actually went to the local community college, took a Sales 101 class for a semester or a quarter or whatever it was. And I was hooked. I'm like, oh, this is easy. If I would have known, I would have gone to school for this, right?
Yeah. Well, they don't sell that, but they don't sell that. It's funny you say that. Like, you're going in high school, you're preparing for college. No one knows what they want to do. And when you apply for college, like say it's a normal 4-year college degree, there's not like a master's in sales. There's not like a sales college.
It's just weird because they don't really, point you in that direction of a sales and marketing path. And so fast forward, I took the course. I was hooked. I said, okay, I'll give this a try. And he was probably the best mentor I've ever had. Honestly, he was extremely intense, extremely knowledgeable in the industry, and the bar for him was way up here. And so I've got a tremendous amount of respect for this guy. He's kind of still in the industry a little bit, but kind of semi-retired, I guess.
Okay.
But I learned a lot from it. And so one of the things I learned was his intensity, as you know, as you were kind of going on about, going on a sales call. Yeah, I mean, I was trained, by the best. And
Sure.
so, the bar was set real high for me. And so I did that as a local distributor in the Chicago market. We kind of dabbled into southern Wisconsin and northern Indiana and kind of, stretched our boundaries as best one can. And I did that for almost 6-7 years. At that point, I needed a change. I had gone through some things personally in my life that I felt I needed to kind of move on, right?
Sure,
Absolutely.
sure.
Which is kind of the theme for my career, actually. And so I went to work for one of our major suppliers as a manufacturer's rep. Well, actually, I was a sales rep for the company, but it
Okay.
was a manufacturer of high performance doors.
Mhm.
And as you said, I was there for 22 years.
Yeah.
Very interesting, long-term career path. I mean,
Mhm.
not a lot of people stay at a place anymore these days, it seems, for that
true.
long period of a time.
Sure.
Mhm.
So, that was a great experience. I learned a lot about the industry. As you know, what we did was, basically anything involving high performance stores. I mean, we
Yep.
covered the cold storage industry, the
Yep.
pharmaceutical industry, the industrial marketplace. And so, that was, I don't know that you could learn any more about doors from any other company.
Totally. And that's one of the things I want to bring up for our listeners that are listening. John Hatter's career wasn't just in cold storage. So you're going to be a unique guest of ours because, most of our guests, maybe that's all they've ever done or all they know is cold storage. You have so many different pillars that you have become an expert on. And I know you've gone on pharmaceutical sales calls.
Oh, yeah.
And industrial high-speed door, like Sally ports and courthouses, the security high-speed doors, you were super heavily into. And then, at Jamison, they have a product like that now, which we'll talk about later. So, and I want to get into
we'll
that product. It's
later.
exciting. We'll talk about that later. But, I met you doing the cold storage doors. And even though you didn't really spend a majority of your time in that arena, you could sell that product because you knew more about the competition than I think they knew about their own product. And with that knowledge, that's what I learned the most from you is, hey, you got to learn and understand your competition. How do they tick? What do they do great? Where are their shortcomings? Maybe speak to something like that without bad talking your competition. And like, you just had a way in your meetings that, man, you're smooth, man.
It's all about practice, right? You do a presentation a couple hundred times, at some point you're bound to get it right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was a fun ride. I mean, it was a great experience. I learned a lot throughout the course of that time there. And we did a lot. We did a lot in cold storage. We did a lot in all these marketplaces. And so I think what I had fun doing was the overlap of all the markets. So, you go into an airport, for example, in an aviation account, and there's cold storage on that project. So, it
That's true.
wasn't one of those situations where, you can just go in and you myopically look at one element of a project. And that's kind of one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing over the course of my career is that I'll go in and I'll look at the whole door schedule and it'd be like, well, hey, wait a minute, we can do that. We can do that. We can actually be your entire door package supplier.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I think that is probably one of the things that younger salespeople don't do is, they go in very myopic, they look at one thing and they miss all the other opportunities that are available to them. I've seen that a lot over the years.
That strikes a story. I got to bring it up because when I left that company and I went to work for a design build GC, I was doing business development and I talked to an old colleague of ours, Clint Bear. I'll say his name. I love Clint. Clint's great. I called Clint and I was like, hey, how's it going, man? How's work going? And I missed the sales meetings with all the guys and Clint's hilarious.
Oh, we had a lot of fun.
We can get into that too, but I'm just like, how's it going, Clint? He's like, oh, good. I just left a sales call in Arkansas. This guy's got 5 doors that need to be retrofitted and replaced. And I go, that sounds like a pretty big job. Does he have any? I go, does he have any, like, is he outgrown a space? Is he going to expand? Have you talked about possibility of expanding? He's like, I didn't really bring it up, but he had mentioned that that they plan on adding a freezer and cold dock space. And I'm like, dude, ask the question. If they're adding on
Right.
to their building, they're gonna need more doors. I'm like, and also I want to get in on that. I
And
I want to sell
Oh,
that
heck yeah.
addition. Like,
Yeah.
well, come on, Clint. So you're so right. It's maybe not asking enough questions too, or the right
Mhm.
questions. That's
Oh, yeah.
totally something.
Well, it's the 101. You go in and you get the customer talking. Have him tell you what he needs. What are his problems.
Mhm.
Then you can actually come up with the appropriate solutions versus just going in there and doing the old term bag diving, where it's like, oh, here's my brochure. This is my door, and it's amazing. And again, it's one of those mistakes that a lot of people make, is that you
I've done
forget
that.
to ask the questions
I'm sure.
and really get into what the customer's looking for, because
I've
that
done-
applies to any industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does. It's across the board because it brings such a value to the customer.
Mhm. It
So
does.
I hope it's not an art that we're losing.
No, it's not. And John, that's so funny you say that, because one of my first sales calls, I had an old regional manager that covered a territory. He was leaving the territory. I was taking it over. And I went on some calls with him, and part of my training, he just went right to the binder. And I'm like sitting there like, I'm pretty sure my boss told us not to do this, but and I'm just like, okay. And it's weird because you immediately look at the customer's face. We start opening up that binder. They don't care anymore.
Right.
They don't care, right? It's put the binder in your backpack, look at the client in the face, tell me about your facility, tell me about your doors, tell me about your problems,
Mhm.
and get his list of problems in your head, and how are you going to fix his problems? Because we all have problems, right?
Right.
Right, wrong, or different. We all have problems, and we want them fixed. It's just natural. We want our problems fixed. And what's the easiest path to that solution? So that's a good point on that for sure.
No, it brings a lot of value.
Mhm.
Definitely. Well, so since you've been in, I guess, somewhat in this industry then, cold storage. So since you've been in the industry, imagine you've gathered some pretty cool stories along the way.
There's a lot of stories.
So let me be specific when I ask, and we ask all of our guests what maybe a cool moment for them is. That's our coined phrase for our podcast. A cool moment that you've experienced, just in your career in general, but that stands out to you, that made you go, this is definitely a place where I want to stay, build my career, or that makes you stay, that keeps you here. Do you have one of those?
I can actually go all the way back to the very beginning. One of the first projects that I ever did was at a hospital, ironically. And so, again, you think high-speed doors, cold storage doors. In a hospital, they use all these types of products. I mean, they use pharmaceutical products, cold storage products. I mean, they're using all of these things.
Yes.
And one of my very first projects that I ever did was at a hospital. And it was neat because they had a lot of problems. They had issues. We mapped out what they were. And again, I was extremely young at that point, maybe even had a little bit more hair. And, it was one of those things where when it was all said and done, the level of satisfaction, when you completed the project, you solved that customer's problem and provided him something that was literally going to last him years, in that particular application, for that given project. And recently I went by that hospital to see if that door was still there, and it still is.
That's
And that
awesome.
would be almost 30 years ago.
Wow. That's
So
cool.
that's kind of cool, when
It
you kind
is.
of look at something like that.
Yeah, your hand is in that. Your hand is in the
Mhm.
creation of that. So it
That's
stays
very
there.
cool.
That's very cool. Let me ask, because obviously you two have worked together in the past. And I know Vince came across this question a lot of, wait, so you sell doors, like garage doors?
Mhm.
How many times would you say in your career you've had to explain what it exactly is that you do?
Oh yeah, it's to this day, it's still an ongoing thing. I mean, honestly, hey, can you fix my garage door at my house?
Yes.
No, I can't.
You know a
and-
guy.
yeah, I know a guy, but it is hard. It is one of those things because it's kind of an obscure industry, right?
Mhm.
And so people think of what they know, but it's really has nothing to do with what we do, in these spaces, whether again, it's cold storage, pharmaceutical, whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, so I always try to use the term high performance stores or specialty products, because at least from that perspective, you're kind of trying to set yourself apart from the conventional door industry. So yeah, you get that all the time. And I think it was probably, and I'm not entirely sure after all this time, my family even still fully understands what it is that I do, honestly. They like the stories when I come back and be like, oh, I was in this facility, or I was in that facility. I remember the first time I went into the Vienna hot dog place in Chicago, and came back and told my stories from that experience.
And can you share that story?
Well, I mean, you've probably been in that same plant, but if you've never been in a meat processing facility or a place that makes hot dogs, you really haven't experienced that side of the world yet, because
I mean,
that's a
he's
game
not
changer
wrong.
for some
I mean,
people.
Food process is a big part of what we do in our industry. And one of my first sales calls was at a chicken kill plant down in the Southeast. And it was, let me tell you, I almost didn't want to eat chicken for months.
Right.
And the whole town smelled like chicken, like
Mhm.
not good chicken. Like I'm talking chicken left on the counter for like 24 hours, not refrigerated. Like it smelled like that poultry, and I'm just like, man, I'm not sure I'm loving this whole thing,
Oh yeah. Well, that reminds me of the first time I went into a pig plant. It was I won't name the company, but they had a kill line for the pigs and the hogs or whatever, and they were making the bacon and all the products that you get from a pig.
Yep.
And I was putting in a bunch of cold storage doors at that facility, literally ranged from sliding doors, swing doors, high-speed roll-up doors. Over the course of the time that I did that particular account, I must have pulled out every competitive door that was in that building and installed at that time that manufacturer's product. But I remember the very first time I saw the kill line, and they kind of put all those giant pigs into the pen, and then they kind of walk them up that little platform, and there it is, zap it goes, and it's a life-changing experience, let me tell you.
Yes, it is.
Really start to understand where your food comes from, right? It doesn't just show up in the grocery store.
Totally.
Yeah,
And
it looks very different from the final product, right?
I bet it does.
And it's specialty products you're putting in those buildings too. I mean, it's food processing. It's USDA approved type stuff. I mean, it's washed down. It's heavy chemical wash down. Tell us a little bit about your experience working in that arena, and what type of product that you have to use.
Well, and that's a kind of segue into product specific type things, because it's all about application, right? I mean, at the end of the day, so you go into a facility, whatever the facility is that they're making, whatever, and you've got to find out what those needs are. Are they real stringent wash down? Are they explosion proof? I mean, there's a million things that happen in these environments related to doors. And again, most people don't think of that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, probably the most fun for me was when I was doing all those types of projects, there was a lot of diversity. So one day I would be in a food plant, one day I'd be in a cold storage plant, one day I'd be doing a parking garage project.
Sure.
And so for me, I enjoyed that diversity, to be able to be in all these different environments. And, not for nothing, but as those cold environments aren't real fun all the time.
No, they're really cold.
They're really cold.
Back in the day, I would have to measure like an 8x16 opening and -10 freezer, and I'd have a tape measure, and you get real good at the tape measure when you're freezing your butt off, right? But you're trying to measure the height, you're holding it in there, and then it'll fall over, and it's just frustrating. And then like magically, literally a year before I left the door industry, I discovered that they have electronic lasers that measure openings. That would have changed my world, man, if I'd have known about this sooner. Like,
You know what?
zap it.
You were brought
there
up old school, Vince. I mean,
True. You
that
was.
there to this day, that's the fallback because the laser things are great when they work,
Mhm.
but
That's also true.
Well, that's true. But I was giving you a layup on the application conversation because I want to get in a little bit about Jamison and what you guys do head to toe. Food processing facilities is, that's one of the major arenas you guys sell product into as well. But using stainless steel, using no wood construction, using
Mhm.
HDPE and all these things. Jamison, it's my understanding, you guys are just a custom door manufacturer, and you guys will make custom doors to the eighth of an inch, and you guys have a wide variety of products. So now's your opportunity, man. Tell us a little bit more about Jamison.
well, it's been an interesting experience because I entered the Jameson world not quite 2 years ago, and so when I first started talking to them and kind of having that conversation kind of thing, it was there was a perception on my end of who the Jamison Door Company was, right?
Okay.
And so when I did the tour the first time, and they kind of showed me around, kind of thing. That was the first big step towards that, moving in that direction.
Yes.
It was mind blowing for me.
Oh.
In my experience, I hadn't seen a manufacturer do what this organization does. And so it really took me a while to kind of wrap my head around it all. And so, as you said, they've been doing this for over 100 years. They've perfected that element of the industry. I mean, when you think of cold storage doors, people think of Jamison Door, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about Jamison Door is that there are so many other facets of that organization. Most people don't know they've got 5 different operating companies
Oh.
where they have different manufacturing facilities. They've acquired companies over the years,
Mhm.
HCR being one of them about whatever, maybe 12, 13 years ago. And they have just blown up that industry, that technology, those applications, and those solutions. Because again, going back to, what you're trying to accomplish as a sales guy, right? Because you could go in there and just put any door on any opening and walk away, which is unfortunately what a lot of people do. They're just going to go in there, sell the guy the cheapest thing he can sell him, and then
Mhm.
he's out and moving on to the next victim, right?
And for the
Well,
listeners that don't know what a HCR door is, anyone that's walked through a Costco that goes from, the grocery area to like where they keep the eggs or milk, and you're going through that big air door that's moving air horizontally across the opening, that's an HCR air door.
and there's a lot of examples of that. The retail side of that business has just been growing, exponentially over the last couple of years. But it's as an organization, they do so many things. And it was funny because even after I came on board with them and I got to spend some time at their main facility and then some of the other manufacturing plants, I was still discovering products that they make and have been making for many years that I didn't even know they did.
Wow.
So so as I've learned about this company and been experiencing this organization over the last couple of years now, it's been fun because they have an entire division that does sound doors, STC rated sound products. They do blast doors. They have an entire dedicated manufacturing facility for the Jamatough swing doors.
Mhm.
I mean, they've got a lot of products, and the way they've gone about doing it, well, the success is just the proof of that, element of what they do.
Yeah.
They keep growing. And then I'll mention this because we're talking about the Jamison Door Company. So what you may not be aware of is that Jamison Door and BMP Italy have recently merged as of the first of the year.
Mhm.
BMP Italy is now the majority shareholder of Jamison Door Company.
Okay.
So one of the things that we really have prided ourselves on as an organization is that it's a 100-plus-year-old company that has been primarily family run. Well, now with this merger, we're taking the opportunity to now partner with the fastest growing high-speed door manufacturer in Europe and add that to the 100+ years of history that Jamison Door has to offer.
No big deal.
Well,
So-
that answers my question about what's exciting at Jamison
Yeah,
Door
that's
Company
the
right
exciting
now. Wow.
So-
We can't even ask that question.
I know.
So
That's exciting.
that's been a big move. So it's going to take some time to kind of really let all the pieces kind of land where they are.
Mhm.
But
Does that
what
mean
I
more
can tell
manufacturing
you is
in-
that this organization out of Italy, this high-speed door manufacturer, has really made a name for themselves globally. Okay. And so North America is now just the next step
Yeah.
in their global takeover. And so it's fun being a part of that and seeing where that's going to go and, you know, how that's all going to evolve over the next few years.
Really exciting.
It's exciting. I've used the BMP products on jobs. It's a great product.
You know, and it's only the tip of the iceberg, because most people don't realize, you know, what Jamison has offered up to this point has been a very small portion of what the BMP high-speed door company actually offers.
Wow.
So they are going to be bringing a lot of new products, a lot of innovative products into the US market. And really, I think going to be a big part of what happens over the next 10 years in both the cold storage industry
Mhm.
as well as other, you know, associated industries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. So is there new manufacturing on the horizon for Jamison in US?
Oh yeah,
More
yeah. I mean,
plants coming?
it's going to be a big growth time for the company.
Can you
I
stop
know
building in the
that,
Northeast? Can you stop building
what's
way
that?
out? Can you
At this
stop
point, yes,
building way out in the
they
middle of
are.
nowhere?
They're still staying.
Are they going to stay
well,
up there? Or are they?
as far as I know, you know. So it's you never know. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, this is one of those things where the organizations that we know in the US,
Mhm.
right, have grown over the last 20 years exponentially. They really have. I mean,
Yes.
all the big players in the marketplace. But what I think is going to happen with this merger is it's going to take high performance doors to the next level in the United States. Because there is so much that, and again, as you know, in Europe, the high speed door market, the high performance door market, you know, they've been doing that for a much, much longer time than, you know, what we've been doing here in the United States. So
Well, I
this is an
feel like-
opportunity to,
Yeah, and I feel like Europe has always been ahead of us, not only in doors, but just the way they've been building. We see a lot of concrete tilt buildings out here in the United States and in Europe. A lot of those buildings are built, even if it's dry, are built out of 4-inch insulated metal panel.
Mhm.
And just it's quicker construction, it's a great R value, and that's gonna come to the United States, where it's the standard dry warehouse is gonna be IMP across the board. And I believe that.
I think that's definitely the future of the marketplace. You know, you see a lot of the insulated wall panel companies, you know, they've got their industrial divisions now. So they're growing that marketplace. But it's a paradigm shift in the construction industry, because people are so used to the traditional forms of construction,
Mhm.
you know, they have to kind of wrap their heads around, you know, going this direction. But I think you're right. I think that's definitely going to be the future of you know, warehousing, manufacturing, all that,
Well, that
which
would
is
be
going to
awesome.
hopefully be good for you guys.
I hope so.
And then we have some great door options to put on those buildings.
Beautiful door options.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, well, one of the questions Vince always likes to ask each of our guests about their company is
About their company?
about why to buy from them.
Well, no, I don't want to buy from Jamison. I want to buy from John.
Yeah.
So
Well, there you go.
you and I are talking. This is one of my favorite questions, and thank you. We're having a conversation, John. You're sitting across the table from me. I've already given you all my problems. You've already given me all your solutions verbally, but why should I buy from you?
Why should you buy from me, or in this case, Jamison Door?
Mhm.
Well, I think you already know the answer to that question, but I'll put it out there for you. I think that the reputation that Jamison brings to the door industry stands alone. I mean, you know, I've never seen an organization support, you know, its sales force, its people, its customer. You know, no company is perfect, no product is perfect, right? So it's really about what you do when things go wrong, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that really sets Jamison apart is that they are all about making sure that that customer is taken care of, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, in my past life, I saw a lot of things that, were not really conducive to long-term relationships with customers, the way things, can be handled,
Mhm.
And so I think that that's one of the things that I really enjoy about the Jamison Door Company. And I think that people that know them, that have worked with them, that doing business with them is really in their best interest. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of the other companies that are out there. The
Mhm.
level of support, the product offering. I thought we had a good product offering at, that other place, but this place has so many more products, so many more options. To a point, you said, they're kind of a job shop,
Mhm.
custom
Sure,
door
sure.
manufacturer. To some degree, they are, but as a high volume manufacturer,
Mhm.
you've got to be able to kind of standardize in some fashion. But they've done a lot of really good things that have allowed them to kind of have a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Sure, sure. So I ask everyone the same question too, from a trade show standpoint. You've attended a lot of trade shows and some cold storage, some industrial. I mean,
Mhm.
and you can pick anyone you want. What's been your favorite trade show that you've attended?
Wow. You know, when you've done as many trade shows as I have over the years, it's hard to pick one, I guess.
What do you get
Um,
excited about? Like which one's coming up like, man, I'm excited.
well, the,
Or
the
is
the
it a
one that's
location
coming
that
up.
you're excited about?
What's that?
Or is it a location you're
Some
excited
people
about?
pick by location.
There are a lot of trade shows that happen in Las Vegas, and I think that's kind of a go-to staple.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say Las Vegas is my favorite venue,
Mhm.
but it is a good venue because a lot of people do want to go there.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
typically attendance is much better, in a Las Vegas facility kind of thing. Um, Probably my favorite show, honestly, is coming up for me on the industrial side. So it's not a cold storage
It's
show,
okay.
but it is the NADA, National Auto Dealer Association show.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what I really like about that show that's a little bit different is that it's the owners of the facilities that are coming through.
Okay.
So you really get to talk to the people that, own the
Pay the bills.
facilities, are really involved with the facilities,
Yeah.
and they're, the ones that are going to be pulling the trigger on the
Mhm.
products that they choose.
Yeah.
So that's one element that I really enjoy about that show because, you go to some shows and you're meeting, a maintenance guy, which is great, or an engineering guy, that's great. But when you get to start at the top, um, I think for me, it gives you that opportunity to make that really good first impression.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So true.
John likes to go straight for the source.
I like it.
You know,
Love it.
you want to make sure that everybody's involved, but at the end of the day, if the guy on top isn't nodding his head saying yes, you're just making your own job harder.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, John, tell us if people want to find out more about Jamison or get in touch with you, what's their best way, like for our listeners, if they want to learn more, like what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, there's two answers to that question.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, obviously, with social media and the web and, websites and all that, we have a good website. Our problem with our website, candidly, is that there's too much information.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the challenge is, when somebody goes to a website, people are looking for something particular, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so when you've got the vast, variety of products that we offer, it makes it hard for people sometimes to find what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. They
Okay.
get overwhelmed.
So I would have to simply say, the website would be a good venue. They've got tons of product video, tons of data sheets. There's a lot of information, but again, there's a lot of information. So the second answer to that question, however, is one of the things that they do really well is our service and installation training schools. So
Oh.
as a supplier or a distributor or a contractor,
Mhm.
if you wanted to become more familiar with any given product, we have our installation and service training schools that allow you to come in, physically install doors, physically troubleshoot doors, and then become familiar with the product from that regard, so that when you're doing your projects, you have a much higher level of comfort and confidence
Mhm.
within the product itself.
That's
So
incredible.
Awesome.
It's a big
Love that.
value.
Email, or LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Jamison's on all that, right?
it's all out there, absolutely. I post quite a bit on, not a lot. I try not to go overboard
Mhm.
on LinkedIn with my postings kind of thing. But again, there's so much out there. And that's one of the things that I personally like that site, because again, you can actually see how many people are seeing your postings. You can actually get the comments and the feedback, from the
Yep,
people
yep.
that are viewing it. And
Mhm.
so, there's a lot of social media out there today.
There
And
is
so your
so much.
podcast is just another example
Yeah.
of taking advantage of that platform.
Mhm.
Listen to us. No, so it's Jamison, Jamison. So the listeners don't Google Jameson at JAMES.
And end up with
End up
Yes,
with
yeah,
whiskey,
I was corrected many times the first 6 months in the pronunciation of the
I'm
company name.
still getting corrected from Dwight Clark and
Jam.
John Williams.
Jamison.
Jamison.
I like
Well,
it.
John, you're coming up to our favorite segment of the show, cool rapid round questions, and this is sponsored by Freeze Construction. I'm going to ask you this or that questions, and
Either
then
ors.
you are,
Or either ors.
or either ors, this or that, either or questions, and get to a little bit know more about John Hatters, or kind of where your head's at and everything. So, okay, you ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
All right, I'm gonna fire away at top of my head, because I want to try to angle these a little bit different for you with what you've been involved in. Okay.
All right.
So you ready?
Yep.
All right. Ping pong or air hockey?
Oh, ping pong. You know the answer to that one.
Beach side or pool side?
Beach side.
Cold beer or cold drink?
Can't we do both?
Oh, I like it.
We can.
We can. We'll allow it.
Whiskey or tequila?
Oh, whiskey.
Ooh, okay.
Jameson whiskey?
Jameson? Jameson whiskey?
That would be the Jamison side.
Okay.
Oh, got it. Soft bottom bar or hard bottom bar, high speed fabric roll up door?
Oh, soft bottom edge for sure.
Ooh, okay. Air door or high speed roll up door?
Can't we do both?
The answer to that, I think, is it depends on the application.
Absolutely.
Man, well, that's all I had question wise. You're a boater, so I was going to ask you a boating
Yes.
question.
We're gonna
And
get
All right.
into spring here.
I was going to ask you a boating question. Are you speedboat or pontoon boat?
Oh, got to go 222 pontoon.
The tri-tune.
You know it.
All right.
We do.
Well, we've had you at our house on our
Mhm.
tri-tune, and
In fact, John introduced us to night boating. We had never been night boating.
That's
You
true.
were-
That was the first outing, the first
you
night
remember that?
outing.
do you remember that?
And we lived to tell the tale.
We did, and Vince drove a little bit, but
I
I
was
think
so-
you did have to park the boat that night.
You did. And I was so nervous because I've never driven the boat at night before. And I'm like, are you sure this is safe? And this and that. And you're like, Vince, I do it all the time. Like, you're selling me on the fact that I should only be night boating, and lesson learned. Like,
I'm
it's
telling you, some of the
amazing.
best boating happens at night.
It was so relaxing. It was like
The lake was
you've
calm,
opened our
the
eyes.
stars. I'm like, this is insane. Full moon.
Oh, that was
too.
a perfect night.
Oh,
That was an absolutely perfect night.
We had a
Yeah.
great time. It was good.
Well,
And we
that's-
lived, so
and
And we lived,
We
correct.
lived to tell about
We're
it.
still here.
Well, John, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
no, I appreciate you guys taking the time, and thanks for inviting me. And if there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
Oh, John, thank you. We
Well,
so
well,
appreciate
thank you,
that.
John, and we appreciate you having you. For all listeners out there, you guys can listen to, or you guys can find us on the social medias now. We're going to talk about it: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You
Mhm.
guys can see the short, 60-second clips on this podcast here. If you want to watch the full version, you can watch it on YouTube. If you
Yes.
want to listen to it in your car, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts.
And you can find them on our website.
You can find them on our website at cooltimespodcast.com. Ladies and gentlemen, John Hatters, Jamison Door Company. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate having you, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.